They say Nigeria is too rich to be poor and too poor to be rich. Why has the country stagnated on the path towards development? Listen to The Conduit on Vision FM 92.1 Abuja every Thursday at 9 a.m. as we explore issues around illicit financial flows in Nigeria, government's regulatory and policy frameworks, and offer practical recommendations to addressing the economic problem. The Conduit is powered by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from Trust Africa.
Beautiful morning to you, and so good to have you on the Conduit this morning. This edition of the Conduit would be interrogating issues around international policy environment and illicit financial flows. My name is Omleha Ode, and it's so good to have you this morning on the Conduit. Not to forget, the Conduit is supported by the Center for Democracy and Development and also Trust Fund Africa. And it's so good to have you this amazing morning. And as we discuss international policy, environment, and illicit financial flows, have you ever thought of the approach that the international bodies, countries, corporations are taking to promote accountability and transparency in order to check the cross-cutting nature of illicit financial flows and asset recovery process? Illicit financial flows had been identified as a significant barrier to a national sustainable development and the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Money lost yearly through illicit activities such as tax evasion, transfer pricing, corruption, money laundered are estimated at $1 trillion from corruption, while money laundering accounts for over $1.6 trillion globally. These flows strip resources away from developing countries and could finance much needed public services such as healthcare, education, good quality road, and other vital elements needed for sustainable development. The cross-cutting conduit nature in which illicit activities manifest from one country to another calls for stronger stakeholders' collaboration between deprived countries and the international community, that's safe havens, to design more strategic framework policies. The synergy will effectively help combat all forms of illicit activities flowing out of developing nations into the international arena and significantly reduce all forms of illicit financial organized crime, arms flow, and strengthens the recovery and return of stolen assets. And to this background, we're actually discussing this morning international policy, environment, and illicit financial flows. And as resource person today, we will be having Olariwaju Suraju. He's a development consultant and anti-corruption activist. He will be joining us on the show this morning. And our focus happens to be the international laws. International laws actually exist. What type exist? To what extent have they been able to check illicit financial flows activities globally? What are then the contextual factors that allow these illicit financial flows to thrive? Nigeria considers as a sovereign state, but why are the international countries actually dictating to developing countries on how to repatriate assets or how these repatriated assets will be utilized? And can the issue of safe haven be eradicated? Maybe through favorable policies. Those policies, you might even get to find out a whole lot about them today. Another question I even want to ask you is, how can Nigeria achieve coherence with the international normative framework? Those are issues we'll be considering this morning on The Conduit. And you can be part of the program by calling in and making your contributions. The numbers for you to call are 080-911-27352 or 08025 140627. Those are the numbers for you to call in this morning and be part of the show. But right now, we'll be connecting with our resource person, Olarewaju Saraju. And in between the show, you can drop a message for us on the SMS portal, which is 33538. Whatever your concern is in between the show, drop a message for us on 33538 and we'll attend to that concern. Hello, good morning, sir.
Morning.
It's good to have
Hello,
you
good
on the
morning.
show.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Okay. Today we're actually discussing on the Conduit, international policy, environment, and illicit financial flows. That's our focus for discussion this morning. And Olarewaju Saraju is a development consultant and anti-corruption activist. Okay, we just hit the discussion this morning. What international laws actually exist that can check illicit financial flows activities globally? And to what extent is the compliance level among countries?
There are several laws concerning the issue of money laundering, illicit financial flow, and international corruption. And you have them both at the sub-regional level, which is in the West Africa. You have the GIABA, that is Intergovernmental Agency Against Money Laundering in West Africa, as an implementing institution with the anti-corruption agencies in the West African sub-region. You have at the African level of under AU, which we also have the AU Convention Against Corruption. You also have at the international level, which is under the UNCTAD, the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, with the UNODC and the Stolen Assets Recovery STAR, and also some other projects of similar nature. These are very critical laws that are multinational in nature, and also bilateral laws, mutual legal assistance, and national laws are also in existence in some of these countries, both the countries of origin and countries of destination. So when you say countries of origin, these are countries where these illicit financial transactions are consummated, and then the monies are then moved through some several shady process to the other countries of destination, where those monies are either kept, utilized, or deposited, or even invested. So, unfortunately, your second question, now I would want to go to, which is to say how effective are these laws. I would rather say they are still very weak in terms of the political commitment of countries to these laws. They are still also very weak in terms of the enforcement of the laws, and they are also still very weak in terms of sanctions. Most unfortunately, quite a number of those laws are without such enforcement or sanction mechanism. So it is expected that it should be with the goodwill or the good intention of the country, or possibly the United Nations, or the African Union, or ECOWAS, to actually enforce some of the laws, and then also sanction people who are found, wanting in terms of the provisions and upholding the provisions of the law. Without that weakness, you wouldn't have the level of illicit financial flow, which is, and I would say conservatively put at about $50 billion annually, moving from Africa to other parts of the world. Unfortunately, West Africa is even said to be responsible for 1/3 of that magnitude of money that could have been used for both developmental purpose and also by extension remove or reduce possibly to the barest minimum the amount of conflict, terrorism that you're also having within the sub-region. Unfortunately, these are part of the consequences, anticipated consequences of illicit financial flow, which is why the West African organization GIABA is named the International Governmental Agencies Against Money Laundering and Terrorism Financing. You would, by extension, want to see that the upsurge of terrorism in West Africa cannot be diverged from the recorded situation and condition of illicit financial flow within the sub-region.
Okay, but with this weak compliance level you're talking about, to what extent should we as a country continue functioning with this international policy environment?
You said where what?
To what extent should we as a country continue functioning with this international policy environment, like continue working with them? You've mentioned at the African level the AU Convention Against Corruption, UNCTAD, UNODC. To what extent should we continue functioning with them with the weak compliance level?
Yeah, it's inevitable that all the countries, especially those who have either ratified some of those conventions or charter, or those signed up to some of the treaty bodies, that you will have no other option than to comply with some of the provisions of the law of those mutual understanding, or a form of convention or mutual law in terms of charter that you signed up to. The unfortunate thing from the part of some of countries of origin like Nigeria or high-profile corruption countries like Nigeria, the unfortunate thing and the failure is also not totally out of our own blame, to the extent that we have failed to activate the provisions of the law in holding countries of destination to account. And the fact is that it is usually not just the countries that directly invade our country to illicitly move out our finances. It is with the highest level of conspiracy with the representative of the country. So you have the government officials that conspires with them in the misinvoicing, the over-invoicing, the failure to pay royalties, the denials of entitlement to the nation, and you have quite a whole lot, including that of both corruption, financial misconduct and practices, and other procurement issues that these international companies are found to have conspired in very huge magnitude with many of our countries and government officials. And this is usually connected with corrupt leadership, government, like we've actually had in the past, terribly had in the past. And that you would see how much of, the tons of billions of dollars that were actually stolen from Nigeria, using especially our oil companies and petroleum industry. Quite a number of these so-called international bodies are heavily culpable in many of these transactions. There's a classical case of about the OPL 245, which is called the Malabu deal, where Shell and Eni, which is Agi, are currently in court with the EFCC. The EFCC has charged them to court, and also some of their officials, with relation to about $1.1 billion deal that was actually consummated in 2011, and that was presented to the public as a national transaction that was resulting in 1.1 billion naira to Nigeria, to the extent that it was paid into a Nigerian account, an escrow account in London. But this was actually guys, the money eventually went to an individual in the person of Danny Tete, and the whole of that 1.1 billion disappeared without Nigeria getting a dime out of it. It was within the circulation of many of the Western countries. So you would see that the problem, number one, starts from our local laws, the failure to uphold our local laws, the influence of both the corporation and our government officials over our institutions of accountability, and successive government failure to then put those who were formerly in charge of services in the country to test and scrutiny. You've only had the opportunity, and the country is having the opportunity of reviewing the past issues, because we are lucky enough to have, a new government that is actually by a different party from the previous party.
Okay. Permit me to ask Olarwaju Saraju. You're actually talking about successive governments. You're talking about of the past. What happens to the current administration also? I understand they're from a different party.
No, there's nothing that tells you that the current administration is not also culpable of some of the things that were committed by the previous government. No, I'm not also saying it because that you have a new party. I was also going to conclude before your question that we're also going to possibly be visited with misfortune of an attempt at covering the atrocities of this government if it is succeeded by the same political party, and if both the media, the civil society, and the citizens are not putting the government under the spotlight to ensure that some of the critical issues of governance are raised and also placed in the front burner to ensure that the government accounts for some of its activities in terms of dealing with the resources of the country. So this current government, it is not enough for us that until they leave office is when we are able to open the book and hold them accountable. No, the role of the civil society and the media is to probe and investigate to a very large extent what is happening in government and in governance. I won't also pretend not to know that we've actually operated a system where we are almost inundated with reports of malfeasance or almost on daily basis, that you are overwhelmed, picking on which one to actually follow to a logical conclusion. But we must also resolve not to descend into that amnesia where after a new scandal is reported, we completely forgot about the old one. No, we need to ensure that those issues, even if there's a new one, we assign people to ensure that the old ones are followed to logical conclusions, and ensure that people are made to account for their actions and inaction while in office.
Okay, because I know Transparency International actually ranked Nigeria 148 out of 180 or thereabout countries, and that was actually my concern. And it was ranked last year, that's 2017. So that was my concern. That's why I had to bring that, the fact you're talking about successive governments and the past.
No, what we need to understand also with that is the fact that the ranking of this year, that the report of ranking that was released this year was actually based on last year. And what you would want to also understand is that it is based on the perception.
Okay, thank you.
It is not necessary that these are the new corruption issues. But the fact that you are having corruption issues reported, and these can be responsible. Factors can be responsible for that. One is that people are more conscious. So all things happen, they report it immediately and they complain. Two, things of the past are also unfolding because there are new investigations that are revealing things that had happened in the past. So these are some of the factors that are responsible for the report of the Transparency International that you're talking about.
Okay, but for you, what contextual factors actually allow illicit financial flows to thrive?
Um, one, the political connection of the government officials in terms of dealing with all the gamut of the commercial transactions involving the resources of the country. And these are not just in terms of the naira and kobo alone. This is also in terms of concessions. This is also in terms of waiver. This is also in terms of moratorium that are granted to commercial transactions between the federal government as representing the state and also the financial, the international, and even sometimes local business interests. The other thing is the weakness of our institutional mechanism to check the activities of government, to review the commitments and also actions and inactions of government, and at the same time to also sanction the failure to work within the allowed and permissible ambit of the law that is guiding all the actions that are either taken or otherwise. Another factor is the docility of the people here, where we all perceive, actions of government as almost an intractable decisions or actions that are outside completely our own control or influence. And that actually is what is taken and as a very good opportunity and advantage by many of the politically exposed persons. The other factor is the failure on the part of those who succeed government, and this largely is due to that of both the mentality of the civil servants, who are actually the custodian of many of the operations of government offices and ministries and agencies, of being a major collaborator in the whole activities and operations of government. And again is our inexplicable status of these aspiration to also proceed or opportunities of corruption. So everybody, quite a whole large number of people, will in a very funny way, socially, also almost endorse corrupt practices or overlook it or ignore it or even celebrate it because they consider themselves as being a potential beneficiary of the outcome of that process. So with that, it is giving a very fertile ground for the perpetrators of many of these economic crime and sabotage of the national resources to operate and fester within the system.
All right, but looking at Nigeria, we are a sovereign state. Why are the international countries dictating to developing countries on how repatriated assets should be utilized?
Well, unfortunately, which is part of what I started with when I said, we've not been taking advantage of some of the international mechanisms and laws guiding some of our transactions, relationships, and then also agreements with our partners in countries of, so let me not just say developed countries, but countries of destination. The first thing, the crime committed with the illicit financial flow is not only identifiable in the countries of origin, it is also criminal in many of the countries of destination. So, for a particular bank in London, for instance, is expected to conduct a due diligence exercise over an attempt by anybody to open an account in the bank. That is for anybody. When it is now a politically exposed person, it is also expected that a further due diligence is also conducted over the inception of a potential customer to open an account. When a kind of financial flow also gets into the country, the banks and the financial institution within that system is also expected to also do some measure of due diligence that would, by all the standards of that country, ensure that we are not allowing for illicit financial flow. So it is not basically because their system there doesn't want money to just come in, but also for the fear of terrorism, which is why you see the HSBC bank sanctioned by the US into tens of billions of dollars for allowing money from some identified drug dealers into the United States. These are failure on the part of many of these financial agencies and institutions in the country of destination to ensure that they also enforce some of enforce and observe some of the legal provisions guiding financial transactions within the system. But unfortunately, what the countries of destinations, what they usually do is basically just to tell us that, okay, we have identified some of these monies and we are ready to repatriate them. For instance, the Swiss government just returned about $322 million, part of the Abacha loot, back to Nigeria. That money has been in that system for, okay, let us say Abacha died like 20 years ago. So the money has been there before 20 years. That money was originally at about $380 million. Rather than the money attracting interest that would have gone into what would be repatriated back to Nigeria, what you have seen is the system charging Nigeria some measure of deduction that are responsible, allegedly responsible for the process of tracking and then also freezing the money before the repatriation, which is not supposed to be so. We are not only expected to have gotten our full money, we are also expected to have applied for a sanction against those the banks that are connected, to the extent that huge penalties are paid as deterrent to them. So, like I mentioned earlier with the Malabu deal, which involved JP Morgan Chase in the UK. This was an illegal account that was opened in the name of Nigeria and operated by individuals in government, not Nigeria as a country, but individuals in government pretending to be representing the federal government. And 1.1 billion naira was paid into a Nigerian account and then transferred to a personal account of Danny Titi and some other individuals. This was after a time that Danny City was already convicted in France in 2007 for money laundering. So these are red flags already for JP Morgan case to know that, oh, this is a certified money launderer. And for them, for you to deal with such a character, you must have gone extra miles and extra length to be sure that you are not part of an illicit financial flow, either against a country or against interest or some certain business. But that was not done.
Okay, permit me to cut you here. Talking about safe haven, to what extent can it even be eradicated through favorable policies? Please, can you answer that in some seconds?
What extent and can it be what? Eradicated?
Safe havens, yes, being eradicated, maybe through favorable policies.
Yeah, it is very much possible. And unfortunately, because we in the developing countries are the victims of many of these illicit financial flows, it is not happening. I can tell you, if it's been part of the resources for terrorism, the whole world, including the developed countries, would have been part of the process of ensuring that, safe havens are completely eradicated from the system. But I think it is very much possible with the citizens and civil society and media in developing countries, connecting with those in developed countries to raise very high bar over these issues in those countries. I think it is genuinely possible to have that policy.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, Olarewaju Saraju, he is a development consultant and anti-corruption activist. But permit me to cut you right, so we take a call and I'll give you the feedback on it.
Okay.
Thank you. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Yes, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
Yeah, Usman from Wuse.
All right, Usman from Wuse, please go on.
Is that the program on Obasanjo's letter?
Okay, no, this is illicit financial flows. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Illicit financial flows. The Conduit is the name of the program.
Okay.
Do you have any contribution to make? Okay, so maybe you might want to listen some more. Okay, the numbers are still 08091127352 or 08025140627, just in case you want to make any contribution to the program this morning. International policy environment and illicit financial flows has been our focus for this morning's discussion. So you could still call us up and make your contribution this morning. And we've been discussing with Olarewaju Saraju. He's a development consultant and anti-corruption activist. We've had focus on the international laws that actually exist to check illicit financial flows activities globally. The compliance level among countries, which he says has been low, and a look at contextual factors that allow illicit financial flows to thrive. Political collection of government officials in dealing with countries' resources was one of the factors he actually mentioned. That's the political connection. And then the weakness of our institutional mechanism to review and check also government activities and to sanction the laws guiding these government activities. Those have been the things that he has mentioned this morning, and we'll be wrapping up right now with him on today's topic of focus: international policy environment and illicit financial flows. And still talking with our development consultant and anti-corruption activist. At a point, one may wonder, how can Nigeria actually synergize with international community and identify potential trade-offs across different sectors to combat illicit financial flows, as well as Nigeria also soliciting for international support regarding regarding illicit financial flows, that is the IFFs. So that is what we'll be wrapping up with our resource person, Saraju Olarewaju, right here on the Conduit this morning.